Okay, so what is old America under your definition?
So old America, and I'm not that old. So, old America in my lifetime has been a series of, the government appearing to work together, the appearing to do things, to improve the lives of people, but also, I think, becoming complacent over time. Like the last several terms, we've had a strong executive that has slowly become stronger, which I don't think is the way that we should be going, but that's what's happened. And a Congress who is constantly in deadlock, so nothing is happening. And so we continue, the immigration problem. Why is the immigration problem a problem? This could have been fixed decades ago, honestly. Decide what you want for immigration. Decide what you want your policy to be, right? And the policy, clearly, I think most people agree, isn't open doors. So if it's not open doors, what do you want? And then make that policy happen. So, I think we've had a history now of an executive getting stronger. For some reason, the American people want a strong man.
So when you say the executive, you mean the president?
The president, yeah.
The president's getting more power to do things?
Yes.
For a period of time, It was because Congress didn't want to make their own decision, so they pushed the power to the president. Mm-hmm. And then, in probably the last 16 years, we've seen the president take more power, execute more executive orders. Mm-hmm. So whether you like it or not, we're in a period now where there's a strong executive. Yeah. When anybody gets power, it's very unlikely they're going to let it go.
So do you think Trump's not going to go anywhere?
I think the executive, Trump is the current executive, whoever the next executive and the executive after that, they will continue to retain their executive powers. Yeah. But this doesn't benefit them to let go of the office of the executive's powers.
So, Jihi, if that's the old America, where it got slightly more complacent, there was more power and increasingly more power given to the president, you're saying we're in a transitional moment now. What does that new America look like on the end of that transition, in your view?
So I don't think we have a good idea of what it's going to look like. I think the current administration is taking a lot of risks that I find interesting.
Interesting is a very neutered word. What is the real word?
Interesting is the real word, because I think that he's taking a lot of risks that really break down how things have been for a long time. So, getting rid of, pulling money from Medicaid and Medicare, getting rid of USAID, transitioning from soft power to hard power. So I think that these are, for me, I use the word interesting because we can't tell right now how that's actually going to play out.
Hard power being dropping bombs on Iran.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're giving more money to military and we're taking money away from, aid, basically. So we're making that shift. We're making, various economic shifts, immigration shifts. And I think there's a lot of unnecessary panic about all of it, because whether I agree with his methods or not, I think that we just have to wait for things to settle out. And if something doesn't work, I think he's the type of guy that's going to take another risk and see if he can fix it. Or that if it doesn't work by the time the next administration comes in, they'll have to do something with it. Nothing stops, everything keeps going. So, I don't know that America is heading for a future that I want to be a part of. I think that's a true statement. But I think there's a lot of Americans out there who this is the path that they want to take.
What is your perspective on everything Jihi just said?
The transition that's happening right now is a transition where the American people have to decide how much they want to get involved and how much they want to let other people just do it for them. And Donald Trump is I'll do it for you kind of guy. And Joe Biden was also an I'll do it for you kind of guy. And Obama was an I'll do it for you kind of guy. And we are electing people who will do it for us.
Do what for us?
Whatever nasty thing we don't want to deal with, budgeting, currencies, hard work, foreign trade, foreign relations, wars, we want to be able to just talk about it without having any blood on our hands. So we push that responsibility to our government, when in fact, our founding fathers were the opposite. Our founding fathers were, hey, The blood is on all of your hands. You tell us what you want us to do. Do you want a revolution? Then let's go fight a revolution together. Do you want to build a new government? Then we'll build a new government together. That's how our country was supposed to be formed. So when Jihi says that we're in a transition and she doesn't know where it's going, she is accurate. We don't know what the future holds, except we know the future holds more pain, for sure. Because we will either come out of this through a painful transition that makes us better, or we will come out of this through a less painful transition that leaves us in a position that none of us want to be in. And then we're going to have to put in more pain to fix it all again.
And how do you think the transition levels out? Where do you think we end up, if you had to guess?
I think that we have a solid 60-40 right now. I think there's a 60% chance that we don't like where the transition ends, and then we spend 15 to 25 years fixing it again. Fixing our economy, fixing our superpower status, fixing our foreign relations, fixing our trust of our own government. I think there's a 40% chance that the decisive action Donald Trump is taking right now is adopted wide scale, and we actually stimulate our economy, get people back on the same page, and move forward in a way that keeps us one step ahead of the threats that we see from China, the disaster that we see continuing to unfold in the Middle East, the precipice that we have come up against in terms of geopolitics. There's a chance that we come out of that, but I think the dominant chance is that we don't. And I would say that that's not just my opinion. That's the opinion of economists, of economists. That's the opinion of foreign relation experts. There are multiple people out there who are all saying that our budgetary decisions, our foreign policy decisions, our military infrastructure decisions, our economic decisions are risky. Risky means there's a chance they'll work, but it's a low probability chance, not a high probability chance.
If the society becomes more individualistic and focused on themselves and nationalistic, then they become more of an island. People get more paranoid. They start building. I know Trump said he's building he's calling it the Golden Dome over the United States so that he can fire any rockets out of the air if anyone attacks. And then you kind of have to unravel that and try and go the other way, potentially. Is that kind of what you're saying?
I try to do as much reading as I can. I'm sure you're the same way. And one of my gifts to myself is when I read fiction. And I'm reading a book called The Left Hand of Darkness by a sci-fi legend named Ursula Le Guin. And it's a book from the 70s. And I'm reading this book, and in it she has this quote where she talks about nationalism inside the world of this science fiction planet that she's on, right? And the quote is something like, nationalism is not a product of pride, it's a product of fear. Mm-hmm. People aren't nationalistic because they're proud of what they have. They're nationalistic because they're afraid that something might take away what they have. And anytime you are driven by fear, you don't have the chance for true happiness. And what I found in that passage from the sci-fi book was really very insightful to what I see happening across the United States. We're all nationalistic, left and right, gay and straight, whether you are old or young. We're all nationalistic. We all love our country. But the things that's driving so much of our nationalism is this fear of the other side. Not a fear of the collapse of our society, not the fear of some rising power across the ocean, but for some reason we're more afraid of our neighbor than we are afraid of the real threats that are out there. Because at the end of the day, California and Mississippi have much more in common than the United States and China. But for whatever reason, we get so distracted and so confused with our own infighting that we don't realize that infighting is exactly what all of our adversaries, from Russia to North Korea to Cuba to even Bulgaria, which is a NATO country that's pro-Russia, our infighting just helps them.
And what's the potential worst case scenario of that infighting? Because people think, okay, it just means people are going to pop off at each other on X and Twitter and social media, and they're going to scream at each other, and then...
Gridlock is the biggest challenge. I don't believe that we're going to be going into any kind of civil war in the United States. We're not going to shoot each other. We're not going to go machete our neighbors. Not now. But gridlock is going to lead to economic collapse. Economic collapse is going to lead to very real individuals having very real problems, which is going to lead to an increase in criminal activity. People will steal from each other. People will steal from stores. People will, lie and hurt each other to try to take care of their own. And as that society starts to collapse and we become more and more tribal again, all very predictable, all case studies that we've seen all over the world, as we become more and more tribal, then we will become fed upon by our adversaries who don't have the same problem.
When you said gridlock is the first sort of domino that falls there, what is gridlock?
I see gridlock as policy gridlock. We don't know how to move forward with Israel. We don't know how to move forward with the budget. We don't know how to move forward with whether or not we ratify these election results, right? And in the time that we don't know how to move forward, it creates an opportunity for somebody else to bypass the democratic process and just dictate the outcome. And that series of dictations makes it so that the outcome is less collaborative, less well thought out, less well defined, less palatable for more people. And then that distrust kind of continues on. We do live in a moment now where the distrust for government is higher than it's been in a long time. We see the largest decline in American currency that we've seen in decades and in the better part of a century. We see a lack of public trust. We see consistent presidential approval ratings below 50 for every president that comes through. We are in a place where the people just don't trust their own government. And I would say that that's not such a big deal, except that we are the wealthiest country in the world. We are the largest military in the world. We are the largest producer of financial tools and the largest producer of weapons. We are a big fucking deal to not have our shit together. Welcome to the United States.
Shadow Cell, an insider's account of America's new spy war by Andrew Bustamante and Jihi Bustamante. It is a fascinating book because usually the public doesn't get to read books like this. And for the reasons you said, because they're so highly scrutinized and then ultimately decided to be confidential by the CIA. But this one managed to get through. So I highly recommend everybody reads it. We've touched on some of the surface level elements of this, but if you want the details of what happened, then this is a good book to read. But it also just gives you a window into a world that most of us live in ignorance to because we don't realize these things happen. It's actually from doing this podcast that things that I thought were conspiracy theories became not conspiracy theories. You know?
Yes.
Because before I started this podcast and started to speak to people like you and other guests that I've had, I thought that, I was watching podcasts and thinking, no, that's bullshit. No, that's bullshit. That doesn't happen. These are like spies. That's not going to happen. There's no way that like one country spies on another. There's no way that like, people go undercover into countries and get secrets and do all these crazy things. I thought that was movies. But actually that happens and all countries are doing it to each other. And I imagine even the United States is doing it to some of their allies. Like I imagine the United States probably has spies in the UK, for example.
The United States doesn't claim to spy on the Five Eyes countries, and the Five Eyes have all claimed not to spy on each other, but that's just a claim.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.